Good morning, everybody. This is Mod 130. We are at week 2, and this is our day 2, or actually day 3, of week 2. Today we're going to talk about chapter 4. So let's get started. You can download or print this PowerPoint outline from the website at carolsclass.com. So go ahead and check that out, and then you can make your highlights appropriately. All right, here we go. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of a sole proprietorship and what it means. We're going to talk about the different types of partnerships and the importance of partnership agreements. We're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of those partnerships. We're going to summarize how a corporation is formed, explain how growth from within and growth through mergers can enable a business to expand, and then we're going to describe the advantages and disadvantages of a corporation. So here we go. All right. So in this lesson, we will discuss the 3 common forms of business ownership. We will discuss how these types of businesses are formed and note the advantages and disadvantages of each. We will also consider several business ownership chosen for special purposes, including C corporations, limited liability companies, not-for-profit, joint ventures, as well as syndicates. So in this lesson, we'll discuss how businesses can grow through internal expansion and through mergers. Here we go. By the way, please read the chapter 4, because what we're doing today is basically just doing an overview, an outline version. So please read chapter 4. All right, sole proprietorship. Now this is highlighted in red. I don't know if you can see it. A sole proprietorship. This is a business owned and operated by one person, one individual. It is the simplest form of ownership. It's easy. In fact, you could do it overnight. Basically, all you need is yourself and yourself. You can use a computer, or you could just use a phone. It could be you. Hey, I want to open a dog walking service, and put up a flyer at the grocery store, and there you go. You started a business. It is the most popular form of ownership, and many large businesses began as small, struggling sole proprietorships, including, guess who? Microsoft. They started in a garage, by the way. They did. 2 kids. I won't go into the story of that, but maybe I'll try to give you guys the link to a documentary about how they started. Anyway, but yeah, in a garage. All right, sole proprietorships in comparison. This is a graph showing you that sole proprietorships, and the first one on the left shows how many there are in the United States. They make up 73%, whereas the sales, it's very small. Corporations make up the majority of the sales. So even though the majority of the businesses are sole proprietorships, the majority of the money does not come from them. But hey, you got to start somewhere. So what are the advantages and disadvantages? Well, the advantages are they're easy startup. Easy to start and easy to close, really. Hey, my dog walking business doesn't work. I could just take down my sign and not do it anymore. Basically, all you need is a couple leashes. Pride of ownership. It's how we express ourselves. Maybe we can make a business out of it. Maybe we can work on our own and not have to work a 9-to-5 type job. So there's a lot of people who are interested in doing this. And it can be done if you have the right knowledge and setup. And sometimes you need capital. You remember what capital means? When we had accounting, we learned that capital is upfront money. And it depends. Not all businesses take a lot of capital. Sometimes just a laptop is enough. So some businesses require more. If you want to start a restaurant, definitely you're going to need more capital because you need to have a building, you need to buy the food and the permits and all that. Restaurants are one of the most difficult types of ownerships. But they are very popular. All right. Advantages: retention of all profits. They all go to you. No special taxes. In other words, you just pay taxes, the taxes on your income. Flexibility of being your own boss. Now here are the disadvantages. Unlimited liability. Somebody slips and falls in your restaurant and they sue you. Well, if you have unlimited liability, they could come after your house, your car, any other assets that you have. Lack of continuity. In other words, it doesn't always, it could go great one month and not so great the next month. Lack of money. Those small businesses right now are really hurting because of the COVID-19 thing, the quarantine. We can get into that one, but yeah, a lot of businesses are hurting. Limited management skills. You just because you have a skill in maybe baking cupcakes doesn't mean you have business sense. So it's very important to also learn business skills, have business skills, management skills. Difficulty in hiring employees. It sounds easy. You think you have them knocking at your door. But yeah, it's easy to get employees. It's difficult to get good employees. Okay? So those are disadvantages. A sole proprietorship, unlimited liability, like I was mentioning. It's a legal concept that holds a business owner personally responsible for all debts of the business. This is a major factor discouraging the use of sole proprietorship. Now, it depends on what type of business you are. Some businesses have a greater degree of liability than others. If you're a medical office, you have a high level of liability. Of course, you would need malpractice insurance. Like I was mentioning with the restaurant. It could be a simple thing, like somebody comes to your office and they trip and fall right outside your door on your property. They're on your property. You are liable. So, it's probably a good idea to have some type of insurance. It's a major factor discouraging the use of proprietorship. Another thing with a restaurant is, when you're dealing with food, you could deal with a lot of things like food poisoning. Food poisoning is something that can happen very easily with, bad jar of mayonnaise or, whatever. It just, food poisoning can happen. And food poisoning usually is mild, but imagine it being, you serve 300 people today, and 300 people are all getting sick. So yeah, it is a possibility. Okay, let's talk about partnerships. A partnership is a voluntary association of two or more persons to act as co-owners of a business for profit. It's usually a pooling of special talents or result of a sole proprietorship taking on a partner. For example, maybe one person has the skills in a kitchen. They're a good cook. And then somebody else has a great personality and can do marketing, can get people in. So maybe the person who is good in the kitchen should deal with the kitchen, the menu, and and managing the kitchen, whereas the person who has the outgoing personality is good with marketing, good at getting people in, should be in charge of that. And you pull your talents together. Ideally, it works, but what's that saying? If you have a friend and you want to keep them, don't go into business together. It's a very good idea that you don't go into business with a friend if you want to keep them as friends. Same thing with family. Unless it's already an established family business, it's not a good idea to go into business with family members because, again, sometimes the business doesn't do so well, and that causes a division. So anyway, that's a whole other topic. There's no legal limit on the maximum numbers of partners. So a partnership could be more than two people. It could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 100. Of course, the more partners you have, the less money you're getting as far as part of the pie. The smaller the pie piece that you're going to get, in other words. Large accounting, law, and advertising partnerships have multiple partners. So usually your big money type businesses will have multiple partners because, again, they're bringing in lots of money. A less common form of ownership than sole proprietorship or corporation. All right. So in other words, it's not as common as the sole proprietorship. All right, types of partners. And I think this is one of your SurveyMonkey questions. A general partner assumes full or shared responsibility for operating a business. A limited partner who invests money in a business but who has no management responsibility or liability. So a general partner has full responsibility and as well as liability, whereas a limited partner will invest their money. They don't have any management responsibilities, and if they lose money, they're only going to lose their initial investment. They don't have, their home and their other assets as a liability. General partners have management responsibilities and liability for all losses. Limited partners have no management responsibility and no liability for losses beyond their investments. Yeah, see, that's what people are getting confused. Sorry. The partnership agreement. The articles of partnerships refer to an agreement listing and explaining the terms of a partnership. Written is the preferable to oral. Oral contracts are viable. In other words, an oral contract is legal, but try to defend one. A written agreement obviously can be proved with, you can present the written agreement. An oral agreement is very difficult to prove in court. So yes, while they are legal, it's very hard to defend one. So always get everything in writing. In writing. Agreement should state who will make final decisions, what partner duties will be. That should be clear, because usually what ends up is one person ends up doing all the work, whereas the other one doesn't. So that's something that should be written clearly. The investment each partner will make. Each person it should be written how much each person is going to invest. Because again, people have not come out of it well because the partner didn't invest the money that they said that they were going to. How much profit or loss each partner receives or is responsible for, and then what happens if a partner wants to dissolve the partnership or dies. That's important because that happens. Usually the partnership gets transferred to the next of kin or the spouse. So there's that. Then you got to deal with another personality. That happened with a doctor that I worked for. The partnership went to the doctor's wife, and it was, the doctor's wife didn't have medical knowledge or anything, and it was a problem. So anyway, advantages and disadvantages of partnerships. Ease to startup. Again, I can have a partner sit with me today and say, hey, let's open up a bake shop. Or let's again, dog walking company, whatever. Or, availability of capital and credit. Again, because you have two people or more people, so more money. Combined business skills and knowledge, like we talked about. Retention of profits. Again, because the profits go to just the partners. No special taxes. Again, you just get taxed on your income. Disadvantages, again, unlimited liability, because now not only can you lose the money that you invest, but you can lose your own assets if the company becomes liable for some reason. Management disagreement, that's probably number one. Management disagreements. Everybody has different visions of where the company should go or what they should do. So that's why it needs to be spelled out or written out precisely. Lack of continuity, again, because today it did well, but tomorrow, who knows? It might not. Frozen investment. Your money is tied up into the business. You're not going to be able to use that capital because it's tied into the business. And until the business starts turning a profit, that money is tied up. All right, let's talk about corporations. A corporation is an artificial person created by law with most of the legal rights of a real person. That first sentence should be highlighted. I don't know if you can see that red here. I'll highlight it here so you can see it. This should be highlighted. A corporation is an artificial person created by law. So according to the law, they see the corporation as an entity, an artificial person. And the reason why they do that is that this artificial person can be sued. So, in other words, you can't take to court an inanimate object. You can't take a car to court. So that's why they have to make it an artificial person, so that if you had to sue them, you could take them to court. All right, including the rights to start and operate a business, to buy and sell property, to borrow money, and to sue or be sued, and to enter into binding contracts. So again, you can't enter into a contract with a car, but you can with McDonald's. All right, it exists only on paper, because obviously it's not a real person. Approximately 6 million in the United States. It is 19% of all businesses, highlight these last two, and 82% of sales revenue here in the United States. So even though they are small compared to the sole proprietorships, they are the biggest money makers. Obviously, how many people go to McDonald's? How many times a week do you go to McDonald's? Or does people go to McDonald's? It's an institution here in the United States. All right, moving on. All right, ownership, corporate ownership, stock. A stock is shares of ownership of a corporation. So you want to highlight these two lines here. I don't know if you can see that they're in red. A stockholder is a person who owns a corporation stock. So a stock is kind of like a piece of ownership. You own a certain percentage. So if you buy 2 shares, you might also hear it as shares. Stock or shares. Same thing. If I buy 3 shares of McDonald's, I have 3 pieces of McDonald's. And depending on how much it's worth, if they make money, then I make money. If they lose money, then I lose money. A closed corporation, in fact, this is one of your Survey Monkey questions. A closed corporation is stock who's owned by relatively few people and not sold to the public. In other words, you can't buy shares into this corporation unless you're invited into privately. It's not sold on the public market. Open corporation stock is bought and sold on security exchanges and can be bought by anyone. All right, moving on. Forming a corporation. Experts suggest you consult a lawyer when deciding to incorporate through the process. And these are 10 aspects of businesses that may require legal help. After choosing a sole proprietorship, partnership, constructing a partnership agreement, incorporating a business, registering a corporate stock, obtaining a trademark, patent, or copyright, filing license or permit, purchasing existing business or real estate, creating a valid contract, hiring employees and independent contractors, and extending credit and collecting debt. So almost anything, really, you need to have legal advice on that. Make sure that you have legal advice. All right, so the advantages and disadvantages of a corporation. Advantages is that there is limited liability. Each owner's financial liability is limited to the amount of money that he or she is paid for. Paid for in their stock. So when you have a corporation, the corporation becomes the entity. So the people who own pieces of it don't have that liability. the liability, it belongs to the corporation itself. So you won't lose your house and your car and all your other assets. The ease of raising capital. And by the way, even a small company can incorporate. The doctor I worked for, he incorporated his little small doctor's office so that if anything happened, he would not lose his own personal assets. So you can do that. Ease of transfer of ownership, perpetual life. In other words, it doesn't depend on one person. It just gets passed on from group of people to group of people. Specialized management, because you can hire different people with different backgrounds. Disadvantages is that it's difficult and expensive to form. Government regulations and increased paperwork. Conflict within the corporation. There's a lot of that sometimes. Double taxation. Now here's what happened. The corporation itself is taxed, but also the profits are taxed, and then also the people's income is taxed. So, yeah, double taxation. And then lack of secrecy, because everything's public. All right. So, in summary, there are several different types of businesses. The models depend on the needs of the owners, the capital available, and the amount of partners and investors involved in formation of the company. With each type of business, there are advantages and disadvantages depending on the amount of risk the investor and owner wants to take. So like I said, it could be as simple as starting your dog walking business tomorrow, or sitting down and planning out becoming a partner and maybe raising some capital to start a restaurant. So that's it for this lecture. Make sure you highlight the ones that need to be highlighted. Those are the questions you're going to be needing to know pertaining to our theory test later on this week. Probably I'll post it on Friday. It'll be due on Monday. So remember, this is a different link than the other SurveyMonkey link. This link is I'm going to send this out differently. Okay, so don't go to the same link, because otherwise anyway, I'll find a better solution. So anyway, I will see you guys later. Bye.